And we are going. What's going on with everybody? It is your boy, Eric, aka Young God, coming to you live in the Orange Dungeon, giving it to you real, raw, rugged. And I got somebody on the other line. I'm going to let him introduce himself, man. Who do we have here today?
It's me, James Pants, coming from not the Orange Dungeon. I like that, but South Orange, New Jersey. So
There we go.
shout out Laraji and all Orange people.
Shout out to Orange people. Shout out to you for being so confused. You're the most confused man about this interview. It's the funniest thing. Every time we've
That's the
talked
truth.
about this, you're like, I don't know why you're interviewing me. I think one time you might have been like, are you sure you're talking to the right person? Like, I think you might have thought I was at a mistaken identity thing going on. But no, I got the right man.
Yeah, well, I mean, I am still confused, but happy to be here. And just it's been quite a minute since I've done any interview, and so I got nerves. Anyways, yeah, no, I'm happy to be here.
When's the last time somebody reached out to do an interview?
It's been a minute. I really stopped doing music for the most part around 2000. 2015 was my last record, so I don't know. I did a couple more little tours, and then kind of after that, I guess the last one was there was a Mort Garson reissue. Shout out Mort Garson, the 60s, 70s electronic dude. And they put out that Plantasia record, which is a great record. And I've always been a huge fan of that record since way back when. And I think that was the last interview, so I don't know, whatever that was. Oh, and yeah, a couple just record reissue type things. I'm a record nerd, so um, those were the last interviews. But yeah, I've been like a 9 to 5 guy now, and so it just feels very surreal to.
I do want to get to the 9 to 5, but
Yeah, yeah,
I'm going to go backwards in how this even
please.
happened. How this even happened. So, 2020, I actually reached out to you for an interview, and we were
Yes.
good. We set it up. I legit don't remember what happened. I think I said it was COVID. I don't think. I think it was after COVID. I don't remember, but something happened where we just took
Right.
a 4 year break, and
Yeah.
now we're here.
Yeah.
So, to go even further on how I discovered who you are. So, I think this may date back to like I don't know exactly what year this was, but I heard your song. It's like 2010, 11 ish, but I wasn't cognizant of who you were. Just heard the song a lot, and this was
Right.
because you were on I think NBA 2K12.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So playing that game, soundtrack, you played a lot. You're gonna hear the soundtrack over and over and over. You're one of those songs that I heard over and over and over. I was like, every time I heard it, I think I did give a little shoulder, a little shoulder movement started happening, a little dancing movement, but never cognizant of this is James Pants. Just that's that one song from NBA 2K. Now when I became cognizant of you, maybe the next year or later that year, is when I heard somebody describe your music as I think they said, "Oh, James Pants, yeah, that's the white guy who makes nigga music."
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. So when I heard Tyler the Creator say that, it was
Yeah.
so funny to me because I don't know if it's a habit or a bad habit, but I've described so many white people as that's some nigga music right there. And one of those people, or one of those persons being, or two of those persons being Hall and Oates. I love Hall and Oates. And I think
Oh yeah, for
around
sure.
that time, I said that about Hall and Oates all the time. So when I heard that description instead of you, I'm like, I have to listen to what this band sounds like. So then I hear We're Through, and I'm like, oh, same guy. So that's the connection. And ever
Right.
since then, I've been a fan of yours. So that's how this happened. And this is really kind of I've had a few people request this, but this is definitely an Eric thing. I selfishly want to interview you because
Oh, well,
I enjoy you as a person and as an artist. So that's a little catch up on how this happened.
gotcha.
And yeah, man, I'm thankful for coming through, man.
It's funny how that works. Here we are. It's very funny how that works. Yeah.
Was Tyler the Creator on your radar when that happened at all?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, he hit me up on Facebook. I don't remember what years. Probably really early, like 2009, 2010. And he sent me some songs that he had rapped over of my stuff, and it was like at the time I didn't know who this guy was, and I was like, wow, he's a good rapper, but it was so vulgar. I was like, I don't know, man. I don't even know if I responded on Facebook, but he kept like he just kept. I mean, I owe him a lot. He really just he mentioned my music so many times in so many interviews that there's a fair amount of people that know my stuff 100% through him. I'd say even like probably who knows. I mean, there's a lot, and yeah, I've talked to him. I hung out with him in Germany when he toured there, and we just I keep in loose touch and swap some MP3s and things like that. But yeah, that was pretty. It's just he's gotten to be such a interesting artist. Like his music has really matured. It's way better than anything I ever did, and he really just like had very specific influences that really just turned into his own sound, and that's like really that's kind of, in my opinion, the way the best music's made. You just you imitate until you really have your own thing, and he's kind of really evolved. I love listening to his records now. My daughters are like huge Tyler fans, so it's really fun.
It is crazy to see like even his fan base. I feel like has evolved because, like you said, now like when he first came out, super duper vulgar, like
Right.
extremely.
The stuff he was sitting on Facebook was like even worse. It was like, whoa, like this is too much, man. Like anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Super vulgar. But now it's like your soccer mom could listen
Right.
to Tyler the Creator and just listen to like not even like even forget like him rapping over the beat. They could just listen to the production of that he makes or whatever. And I feel
Right.
like that really shows like his maturity. And one of the things about Tyler the Creator that I've always noticed is that he really wears like his influences on his like heart or on his on his
Yes.
sleeve because like when I found out about artists that I've never heard about and I listen to their music that he's a fan of, I'm like, this makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Like yourself, listening to you, I'm like, oh, this makes a lot of sense that Tyler listened to James, you know? And
Yeah.
do you take that as a
Yeah.
compliment, like to see like him reciprocate that influence?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's I really respect his taste, and it was really you know I sometimes have always felt like my music has been was it was too it was just not what the people wanted. It was very like basement Spokane music, and so to have somebody like Tyler just be like a fan is was very like confirming. Yeah.
I think honestly, listening to somebody like you, I think of like a Gary Wilson because you say that like people didn't want this or whatever. Maybe not that people didn't want this, but I think it's ahead of its time. Like I
Well,
listened to like Debbie Debbie, and that song
uh,
sounded like it could have came out in like 2020. Like just the way his vocal sound, the weirdness of it, the Debbie Debbie when I want you to do it, like everything about
right.
that sounds weird. You like my favorite album from you, excuse me, my favorite album for you by far is your self-titled James Pants.
Oh man, yeah.
Freaking every night, I love like that song right there. That's like on a loop in my head. Like,
Well,
great song.
I think in some ways, like I said, I really like Tyler's approach was really a good one, and that's really all I've ever done, and I can say that honestly now, especially like I've really just there's a few artists I really love. Gary Wilson being one of them. Gary Wilson was my entire first record was trying to be a combination of Gary Davis and Gary Wilson. Those were like my two musical idols, and I just couldn't find that sound, so I just was like, I'll make it. But yeah, the Every Night song is. I was also a huge fan of this record that's now been reissued. Everything's been reissued. The Prophet. The Prophet is like this. He's also Stone's Throw put out some of his stuff, but his old record is got this really kind of harsh, uh, keyboard heavy chord kind of thing throughout every song. And I was like, I just, that sound, I want to capture that sound. That turned into that song.
And it's funny because one thing that I've noticed about you is like you're a real music nerd. Like you know every song ever made. It seems like if the song
Not
was,
true.
I'm
Thanks,
telling you,
thanks.
dog, if the song was recorded in a booth, you know it for some. Like, it's amazing. I feel like, uh, which I want to talk about later. But leaving listen to your radio station, I picked up so many songs and so many artists that I would have never found out about. Real music nerd, and this kind of goes back to me saying that we were supposed to do this interview 4 years ago. I have like notes in here that I have
Yeah.
no clue where this came from. I don't know where this came from, but I wrote down. I said I seen you posted a picture of a bunch of vinyls. It had a Strawberry Switchblade record.
Oh yeah.
So that gave me this thing. I don't know where I found this from, but I wanted to know: have you ever heard the Strawberry Switchblade? This excuse me, the Strawberry Switchblade song. It's like an official song, but it's like an unreleased version of it. It's called "Go Away," but it's like the
Oh
original
yeah.
version. It's like the original version of "Go Away." Have you ever
Yes,
heard that
yes,
before?
yes. The one that's like just it's just like it's like real drums, no drum machine.
Yes, yes,
That's like
yes.
kind of out of tune guitar. And yeah, that's my favorite song on that record.
Oh my
That
gosh,
thing rips.
such a good song. It is such a
I'm
good
glad you
song.
like that, man. That's really cool.
It
That's
is
I don't hear people talk about Strawberry Switchblade enough.
very underrated.
Oh man, yeah. Like that. It, yeah, there's just so much good stuff. I wish I knew it all. I really don't. But I've always been like, if I see an interesting record I've never seen before, I usually, grab it and you just kind of stumble on the random stuff like that.
How did
And
you?
I always buy. Well, I try to always buy whatever's cheap, and so I just have been lucky because I'm like a bottom feeder. Everybody's after these like expensive records, and like whatever's cheap, that's what I buy. And then 10 years later, whatever, like those are the records people want. And it's that's just my philosophy in life. Just buy you can find a lot of stuff. People miss a lot of stuff.
To you, when you're going record shopping, is it similar to like buying a book where it's like I don't know. I would assume when you're buying a, because I don't buy vinyl, but I would assume when you buy it, is it like for a record you never heard, is it just off of the cover looking interesting? It's like this looks crazy.
Yeah, to be frank, I don't really buy that many records anymore, just because it's got that. It's turned into kind of a commodification
Yeah.
lately, and it, prices are just ridiculous. And I've actually switched to books, so it's a good analogy you have. But yeah, I used to work in a record shop. I've worked in many record shops, and so I've just seen a lot of records in my time, and so I'm at the point now where it's like if I haven't seen it, it's like some will I get some like dopamine shot, and then like I'll give it a second look. And then if it meets some criteria that's vaguely in my head for the day, changes day by day, like that's the sound. I'm more after like kind of a flavor or sound than like anything else. That's kind of what I've studied most in music. I'm not really even a musician. I can play the drums, but like really, I've always been just more like it's a sound I want, a vibe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so
How would you define a musician?
well, I don't know. That's a tough one. But I used to be very involved in band throughout school up to college, um, and I really wish I had stuck with it past that because I really let my skills rot, and I would like to be able to. I don't know. I think there's, in today, like in 2023, I would say most people are producers. There's a lot of producers, and it's kind of pastiche, and take your various aesthetics and put them in a meat grinder and see what comes out. And I'm guilty of that. And so I think there's more of an emphasis lately on too much emphasis on aesthetic and not quite enough on flavor or actual substance. But part of that is just like 2024 and the climate we live in. But I don't know. I don't know how I would define musician. I don't feel like, I guess, when you look at like Bach and folks writing songs essentially like based off of math and geometry, and I'm not seeing that as much. I guess musician implies a slight. I mean, there's an art. You can be an artist, but I would say to be a musician perhaps implies some more training or mastery of your instrument. But it's hard when your instrument, when you have like if your instrument is a reel-to-reel tape machine or a computer or whatever. I love reggae dub music. Are those is Lee Scratch Perry a musician? I don't know.
It's funny because I think about we say Bach, I think about like classically trained musicians because
Yeah,
I went to an art school where because I was in a band, both of my band directors went to Juilliard, and
yeah,
they were like, I don't know. When I think about like hip hop, when you hear like a certain, I don't know if I think of like a 2003 like Kanye West beat, you're like,
right,
oh, that's a Kanye beat. I could tell just by
right,
what it sounds like. That's a Timbaland beat or whatever.
right,
They could play a Bach song they've never heard before and be
right,
like, oh, that's Bach. And that was so crazy to me because I'm like, these are just like instruments. How do you know that? Like, I know this is a Kanye beat because of the sped up soul sample. Like, how in the heck did you
right,
know this was
right,
Bach? So when I think about like a classically trained like musician, they have like, I really do think because I think a lot of that like knowing how to play an instrument, knowing how to do that, like that's kind of faded away. You don't really have to know how to do that stuff. But I do think that gives you a very good, like upper hand on everybody else because I don't know
yeah.
if you agree with that, but I think so.
What's interesting is there's like simultaneously, life is just always a paradox, isn't it? But like simultaneously, there's a lot more people not playing. I guess what I'll say is they're not playing instruments. They're producing on a computer or whatever. But there's also like all these young kids that are playing like this insane like fusion jazz all of a sudden. Like what in the hell is going on? Like it's like Alan Holdsworth style, like just crazy chord changes, and so it's like there's almost like a extreme instrumentation as well. Like a few of the music nerds have really like become cool or something, and like are making these like really interesting records. So everything I say is also the complete opposite is also true. I think that's the gist of this interview.
It's funny because one of my goals in this interview was to try to put you onto a few artists to see if you've heard of them. And
Oh yeah,
I think right now you just listen to you talk. Have you ever heard of Bill Wirtz?
Bill Words?
Wirtz, like Wurtz.
No, I have not.
So
No.
Bill Wirtz is
Very
this guy who was a YouTube or he is a YouTuber and he went viral. This video has like 160 million views, and it's him uh, doing like the history of the world. I think it's called like the history of the world, and it's like
right,
this weird video of him showing the whole history of the world. And he's like doing like melodies in between, but then he actually just has like full out songs. And the only way I can explain it, it sounds like a white Thundercat. It's
oh
hard to
right, yeah,
it's so hard to explain how his music sounds, but I would say if you want something just like weird and doing a lot of like music theory, but making it like jazzy and funky, I would say
right.
check out Bill Wirtz. Bill Wirtz is a very
Yeah,
interesting guy.
that's it. Yeah, I'll check that out. I need some new recommendations. I keep going further and further back instead of forward. It's happening.
Well, I mean, you seem like a very nice guy, so I'm going to be the big meanie here. I'm going to be the big meanie. You seem like a super duper nice guy. I personally think music in 2024 is very far off worse than it's ever been, in my opinion. I think that you can find some underground stuff, that's always been a thing. It's always going to be super duper talented people that are not looked upon in the mainstream.
Right,
But just generally the landscape of music, like even like pop music, I'll listen to like a pop song from like the 80s, freaking Hall and Oates. I listen to Hall and Oates and I'm like, who's making music like this in like the pop
right.
realm, like who is our Hall and Oates, and
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah.
I think almost, I'm not gonna say every genre, but there's a lot of genres that I feel like are taking step backwards. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but it just feels like that.
I think I can certainly make a case for that. So I'm curious though, why do you think that is?
Um, so for example, I think this answer applies to a lot of things, but specifically, I'll do like an R&B. I love R&B. Grew up on
Yeah,
it. Mom played it. Whatever. And I think one of the reasons why, because bro, this blows my mind when I think about it. Think about like the '60s and like Marvin Gaye and all of them. Like those were like the biggest artists in the world. You know what I'm saying? Like those were number one. Everybody loved them, and it's so funny because that was during a time segregation just ended or still going on, but these black people still the Temptations, like they were making music during like crazy times in America, and they're shooting off number one on TV, and it's like their music prevailed. That's how good the music was. And
yeah,
why I think it's not like that right now, I think, for example, so R&B, I think it's two things. I think it's one, people can't sing that well. I think people regard Marvin Gaye as like one of the best singers of all time. I listen to a lot of '80s, '70s soul music, and it's like this is insane. People aren't singing that well, and I feel like when you're making soul music or R&B music, it has to be some type of feeling into it. If there's
yeah.
not in the singing, then it has to at least be in the instruments. If there's
Right,
no instruments in it, because I feel like instruments evoke emotion. So if there's no
right.
instruments, there's no good singing. Where's the emotion from? So I feel like it's a lot of almost emotionless type of music coming out, and I feel like that could be subscribed to pop music, rap music, a lot of music, just across the landscape.
Yeah, yeah. I think you could certainly make a case for that. It's a tough one. I mean, um, there's a lot of yeah, there's a lot of forces in 2024 that really get us to that point. I mean, I think like technology's played a big role. I'm not blaming on technology, but like you know, people make music by themselves now.
Yeah,
That's where it happens. And like Temptations, this is a vocal harmony group, or where's the other than like the holiday classics kind of folks. There's really not like this level of vocal choral groups where it's like, hey, let's I don't know, get five people together and practice regularly, and get a thing going.
yeah,
People do it by themselves, or they like email the tracks back and forth and stuff. So there's like everybody's isolated, so it's hard to get that social cohesion. And also, music is so easy to distribute now that there's just like there's too much. It's like too much. That's partially why I don't do it, not because I don't like it, but it's you know the, there's a lot, and most people don't really have anything to say. I think that's the other problem, and that's a whole host of other reasons. But yeah, I think the arts in general are in kind of a tough spot right now, or kind of a dry spell in a way. I mean, people will say, well, yes, there's 50 artists that are yeah, yes, there's a lot. There are plenty of good people, and I think we will find out about them as time goes on, and all of the like garbage kind of gets sifted out. That's how it always works. So, um, I think there's simultaneously good stuff happening, but I would agree with you that like uh, if you just the average quality of a song I hear is pretty low.
you know. And this is why I'm interviewing you because you got a big brain. You just said something I don't know why I never put two and two together. You just said that one of the reasons is that everybody's kind of doing it by themselves. Everybody's kind of isolated. There's no
Right.
like I didn't even think about like where are the quartets. That was the thing. Like where people
Mm-hmm.
were in fours and trios and singing together. That's not a thing at all anymore. Like
Right.
that is a
Yeah, you sit
dying
out on the
thing.
street corner and you like talk shit all day, and you can put together some great harmonies like that. And people don't hang out on the sidewalk, because there's no
Yeah.
sidewalk. They probably live in, they have to drive somewhere to like go meet people. It's really insidious. I mean, you could all say, it's all late stage capitalism, and that's kind of right too. But it's like it's a bind. It's not just music. It's like it affects everything. It's the same, kids. It's all related.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's
Like
some of
like music is like an expression of the times.
yeah.
It's like, you see like very little cohesion, a lot of like micro genres, good aesthetics, not much substance, very good design and packaging. Like they hit all the right notes, and maybe you listen to it and you're like, oh, this is so fresh. But then like a month later, you're like, that didn't. Now, like I'm on to the next now. So there's just not the same way you can have that connection. Like Marvin Gaye, his records played on the radio. It's played. It's like a community. It's communal. Now, who's the only communal artist? It's like Taylor Swift. It's like that. Is that like the best? That's the one that that's the one that's safe everywhere. But yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
No, I think I had to take this sociology class in college, and one of the big things about like or about that teacher specifically is that he preached a bunch about like community and togetherness
Yeah.
and how certain groups are more together than other groups and why is that or whatnot. And I do think you see a lot of just outside of music, I think a lot of things get done when the people are together. That's like anything. That's like when you see a protest happen and people come together and change happens or
Right.
whatever. So I do think that's a brilliant thing with. I don't think it should be any different in music. People being together, rather if it's being in quartets or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's a good way to look at it.
It's tough though because we have a lot of individual distractions these days. So people are also. I mean, I get it too. Like I'm not. I'm isolated more than I should be.
Yeah.
But I'd like to do. I mean, if I do any future record I do, it has to be like with other people. I think because I just don't. I think it's more powerful.
And when we talk about aesthetics, you said sometimes like the aesthetic is more important than everything else, and
Yeah.
I totally agree because I'm not gonna lie, man. You're a smart guy. I think you could do it. I think I could do it. I think if you find the right artist and you put together the right package for them, they don't even gotta be that talented. If you put it together right enough, the people would be so into the visuals or whatever you're doing.
Sure.
And it's almost like because like I'm a sociology guy, so I'm super into how can I get this to happen? Like, how can I put this effect on people's brains? So I
Yeah.
really think it's more important to how am I going to package this artist. They could be terrible. This could be the most dog doo doo water artist you've ever heard. But I got them a cool video. Maybe I put a little effect on their voice, and people are just hypnotized. It's so interesting that that's the real important thing now. Versus like the Marvin Gaye days, it's like, can you sing? That was the number one thing. It's like, can you sing? All right, bet you're on Motown.
Yeah, I was just thinking about Marvin Gaye the other day because I think I could be wrong here, but I think the what's going on album. I think that was the first album because prior to that, Motown didn't let him do his own songs, and
Mm.
like, he had like he sang other people's songs. I think he had one or two of his own, but like they let him produce the entire record of what's going on, and that one just still hits really hard every time I hear it. Especially "Mercy, Mercy Me" and stuff. It's like one of the few. I remember like as a kid, almost like I never hardly cry, and I remember hearing that song and I was like almost like choked up. And I remember that as a little kid, and it still happens. Like I mean, that's a good record, man. That's a really good record.
I think about this all the time because like when you hear like brother brother like you just know it's going to be a beautiful record. It's funny enough because I was telling somebody this a couple of days ago. Is I think it's a song by Heatwave, the Always and
Oh yeah,
Forever. Bro, I don't have any type of emotional attachment to that song where it's like somebody I knew that liked the song died. I hear that
right,
song, I damn near cry. Like I don't know
right,
why,
right,
but
right.
it's no reason for me to, but it's just so beautiful. And the question that I always pose to people now is I say those songs are like 40, 50 years old, the Marvin Gaye's and the Heatwave songs, but we love them like they came out yesterday.
Right.
What are the songs now, 40 years from now, that we're going to, and not even we, because look, Marvin Gaye is before we're born, before me and you were born, but we love
Well,
those.
I was born in '82, and I think we overlapped by like 2 years or 3 years maybe. His dad shot
His
him in
dad
like
shot him.
'85 or something. I want to say it was '85, but I could be wrong. But I remember he had the 808 on Sexual Healing, and that came out in I want to say '82, I don't listen to me.
Great.
I'm getting off track, but it's
For
somewhere.
sure. What's going on predates us. We can say that.
Right, right,
What's
yes.
going
So
on?
what's going on is not to get all technical. Yeah,
but we love it like we were there, you know.
right,
So
right.
I say, what are the songs that came out now 40 years from now that who people that are born tomorrow that they're going to love from this era, you know, like do we are we making music that's going to last 40, 50 years from now that we're still going to appreciate and the people that come after us are going to appreciate, you know.
Yeah, I think some stuff will surface. I mean, like, it's a thing you can't predict it.
Yeah.
Or maybe you can, but it's hard to tell. A lot of factors go into which songs survive, but yeah, I mean, I think any song that not to get all corny, but I think any song that just like has elements of truth to it, those are the ones that survive, versus the ones that are just kind of you know more shallow. But who knows? I mean, the other thing is like every year, you know, I'd like to see like the Spotify numbers of how many albums are added every year, but essentially every year, uh, more music is added to the pile of
Yeah.
all music that has existed since whatever, let's say, early 1900s, like technically maybe late 1800s or something. But like, there's a finite number of songs that have been recorded that people can listen to, right? And we keep adding more and more and more every year. So every song is essentially in competition because only a few songs can remain, in people's minds. Like maybe I'd say less than 1,000, probably for most people. That true like bedrock songs. Um, and so the competition just gets harder because every year that comes out, like you're up against Marvin Gaye and you're up against Beach Boys and you're up against whatever else, and so the bar just keeps getting raised.
Yeah.
And so I think the only way to get over that bar is if you like actually have some type of sound or message or something that captures that moment in time, and, in a way that people can get something from it way down the line. But who knows how to do that? I certainly have never done this.
It's a positive aspect in all this though, because you talk about so much music come out that it just some of those good songs are going to get lost because there's just so much music coming out. But I will say, even though I have my qualms about TikTok, because I do think TikTok can like promote like fast food type of music, like where the
Dude,
music,
yeah.
But
But
I will give the good positive about TikTok.
well, the opposite's always true.
They will blow up a song from like the 80s or the 90s that didn't really get its credit, and
Yep.
now it's like number one on the billboards. I say that to say it would not shock me if We're Through just goes crazy on TikTok, because that
That'd be
sounds like a song that people would dance to or make some type of like meme to on TikTok. I don't know how you would feel about that.
yeah. It's out of my hands. But that's true though. My daughters discovered the Raw band through TikTok, and they had the song "Messages from the Stars" that
Great
has
song.
been, that has been a favorite of mine for over 20 years now. And nobody over it was some cheesy song in the UK that didn't get much notice at the time, but it was like you could always find that for £1 in the UK. Like nobody wanted that record, and but every time I would play it here in the US when I would DJ, it would just like people would go apes because the song was so good. And but still nothing happened. And then TikTok, like it blew up on TikTok, and now kids everywhere are bumping that song. It's like, what the hell is going on? It's so crazy. Yeah, it's wild. There's some, I will say, like we have a our daughter's turning 11 tomorrow, and she's got really good taste in music for an 11-year-old. Like and it's unfortunately, like I would say that through osmosis or whatever, she's getting these probably from TikTok. And but I mean, there's some definite upshots to it.
It's yeah, that's an interesting thing. Would you be adverse, like would you have an adverse reaction if that happened to one of your songs, or would you welcome it?
No, I mean it's out of my hands. it's in the hands of the machine. Uh, you know, and human, some weird transhuman algorithm machine.
And it's funny because you talk about people adding more music every year, adding more music every year.
Right.
Somebody who hasn't done that is James Pants, as you said.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You've kind of stopped adding music to the sphere of the music world.
I mean, for now, I'd like to do something again, but like, I don't know what to say. I just got to a place where it's like I didn't have anything more to add.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that, you know, I just noticed like I would make songs and you know, it's funny because some of them are going to come out pretty soon actually, but I just didn't have the same interest, and I don't know how to describe it other than like there was a lot of stuff coming out and a lot of it was good from other people, and I thought I don't need to do anymore. I've done enough. Like there's no obligation, and you know, and it just was like time to give it a rest, recharge, kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, I want to do something at some point when spirit strikes, but I'm not like I'm not itching to get back right now.
Well, my 4 years ago journalism screenshot from a third hand Twitter app. From your page, you said in January 24th, 2020, I often miss doing music full time, but man, is it nice to have a steady paycheck?
Oh man, so yeah, that's. I mean, you know, I sold my soul or whatever, but you know, I did music. You know, uh, I had a daughter when I was 26, and I was around when I really started touring a lot, and it just was always hard. You know, like you make a lot of money one month, and then you get it's nothing for a few months, and then it's just I don't. I'm an anxious person already, and I just did not like that kind of instability. You know, some people really thrive on that, but I also got really nervous at live shows. I didn't really particularly like touring, uh, so that's you know, as a contemporary music shows are how you make your money.
Mm.
You know, it's not off of album sales. It's the opposite of the '70s, where they lost money on tours and record. But
Yeah.
yeah, you know, it was like I prefer just going to bed at the same time and having the ability to know essentially what I will make in a month. Uh, that's good. It
No, it
helps.
is. It is. Before we get to that, you said that you had a little nervousness sometimes performing. Was it stage fright?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not. You know, I'm a little awkward socially. That's fine. I'm a like you said. I'm a record nerd, and I grew up in record stores, and I was a band geek. So I've never been like a smooth. Let's hang out with and just be all smooth together. It's like not been my thing. It's more like a nervous energy that I thrive on, and it made for. I think I did okay with shows. I mean, as best as I could. I mean, I put out a lot of really nervous energy, but it wasn't fun. I mean, it was fun to be done. I
Yeah.
would be like, I'm done now. I can finally enjoy my life again and drink beer or something. But I always like 3 days prior to every show, I'd be like, oh, just wreck. And it's not, you're up. I was in Europe mostly, and so I was much more successful in Europe and Asia and Australia than the U.S. And so I was mostly abroad, and it's just like different time zones and different hours. Playing shows at 4 a.m. and stuff. It's just like the getting on a flight. It's like it's not that fun. For some people, they're like pros and really like thrive on that, but it just wasn't my thing.
all that potential energy and all that creativity in your head, I would imagine it really felt good to put it in your music. Maybe not the live performance, but
Yeah.
just putting your music. Now that you've moved to the 9 to 5 life, is I'm not saying you stop making music completely, which I'll get into, but like, how do you channel that creativity or that energy that used to be put all into music, but now it's put, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do you, like, what do you channel it to now?
I mean, I read a lot now actually, and I try to. I don't know. I take in a lot of inspiration still from music and from books and from being outside as much as possible, and that's really been a good thing.
Mm.
So I'm mostly just kind of really just learning new stuff and I hope that can go back into some creation down the line.
Every time I interview a pretty smart person, I have to ask, what books are you reading? Any book recommendation? I see you got some books on the shelves right there.
Yeah, man, I've been really enjoying a lot of stuff. I would say, well, fiction wise, you can't you can't do any better than Dostoevsky. Um, I would say like Notes from the Underground. It's a short one. He writes long books, but this one's really short, and it's really good for every. Like I can't recommend that book enough. Um, he had a big fan. You probably know from like Crime and Punishment or Brothers Karamazov, but Crime and Punishment is good because this guy essentially kills this woman, and he's just got. It's like a perfect portrayal of like the type of anxiety you would have after you killed somebody. Like like he's hoping he'll get away with it, but he's like now he's so freaking nervous. It's just destroys him. But anyway, sorry, it's a good book. And then yeah, I've been reading all kinds of stuff. A lot of Catholic philosophy. There's a really good book called The Power Broker about Robert Moses building New York. That's pretty wild. Um, yeah, man, there's all kinds of good stuff. I really have more fun in a bookshop right now because books are much cheaper than records. The whole equation is inverted. It used to be, nobody wanted records, everybody wanted books. Now it's the opposite. So it's a good time for me.
I went to the library for the first time maybe 2 weeks ago since, man, I had to been like 11 or something, 10 last month to the library.
Right.
I live very close to one. Went to the library, man, I fell in love with library again. Like, I
Yeah,
am a library lover. So,
it's a good vibe.
yeah.
If you read, I commute on a train, so that's really like I essentially have at least half hour on the train minimum each way, and so that's an hour a day, and then I usually read probably an hour before I go to bed, so I can like crank out a fair amount. Um, yeah, yeah, and then I really I got I got kind of like I went off the deep end during the pandemic. I got really into like mushroom identification. Jacksonville's a hot spot right now. But so I joined the New York Mycological Society and really spent, whenever the weather's good, I just spend most of the time outside, like looking for fun mushrooms. Take the dog. It's actually quite a great life. Like I'm not.
Behind you.
Oh yeah, my friend did this. I have a pal from Spokane. I wish he didn't. I love it. I wish he didn't put blue on because I don't want to give off the wrong vibe. But it's fine. Um, because typically blue staining mushrooms, or some of them frequently, those are like the psychedelics, which I have nothing against. But I just don't want like my parents walking in and be like, he's got psychedelic mushrooms all over. I see what's going on. Because what's going on. But anyways, it's great painting.
Because you're based in New York, right?
Yeah. So I live in the New Jersey suburbs of Manhattan. Work in Manhattan.
The I watched this show called How To with John Wilson.
Yes, great show.
Like, I aspire to do stuff like that. The type of stuff that he finds in New York, you would never find in Jacksonville. Like, there was an
Right.
episode last season where he went to like a vacuum convention. and I was like, what? Like you would never find this anywhere but New York. And you saying like you're going mushroom watching like that's I'm just like, whoa, that's a thing.
Dude,
That's so
you can
crazy.
do that in Jackson. You can do that in Jackson. There's a great website called iNaturalist.
Okay.
You can essentially like hunt for. You can like it works for any biological life really, but you can just type in like fungi or whatever, and it'll be in your map, and you can see what everybody's finding in your area, and be like, oh dang, like I just go to these woods and find some stuff. It's fun. It's a fun, it's like it's the same scratches the same itch as like finding records in a record shop. You're just like walking around, and, whoa, that's a rare one, and then come home, and then the best part is you can like with certain ones you can eat it, and so it's a win-win. And we I really didn't like the New York area for the first few years I was here, but I really really enjoy it now. And it's, not only is the city obviously crazy and fun. And like you said, there's like you see something every day. But there's great like just north of here. There's some like really great. Essentially 40 miles north is like farmland and really wooded. Great woods. So it's a fun area.
I are you a big because you're talking about like reading these books? Are you a big fiction reader? Because I know you said you were doing a lot of fiction stuff.
I am. I like everything. I typically read like a fiction, nonfiction. I just go back and forth, just whatever.
I
But yeah,
I asked this because I keep seeing this guy's name, and I don't know if you know who this is. I'm just curious if your thoughts on him. Brandon Sanderson. You familiar with him?
no, not at all.
Legit don't have anything to say about him. I just keep seeing the name everywhere I go in a book
Really?
space. So I didn't know if you were familiar with Brandon Sanderson, but I think he's like the hottest like or from what I've seen, he has like some of the biggest fiction books out right now. So
Okay, yeah. Well, so that's the like same with music right now. I'm like still just like there's so much old stuff
got you.
I haven't read, so I'm just like catching up on the classics, and it's like you can't go wrong. Man.
For sure.
I just read Moby Dick. I had never read Moby Dick, which is embarrassing, but like that book rips. It's crazy. Like, do you know how they used to catch whales back in the day, man?
I've never read Moby Dick. I know the premise, but I've never read it actually.
Well, like so back. I don't want to. We don't have to talk about Moby Dick, but I just got to tell you, these were some crazy fools that used to go like these whale fishermen back in the 1800s were out of their minds. They essentially, I thought they were just like, scooting around in the Atlantic. But no. They would like go from like Massachusetts to like Indonesia into the middle of the Pacific. Like they'd be gone for like 4 years, like in these rickety old boats. So then they like spy a whale, right? They get in rowboats. They like all are like cranking, like pull out, to get to the whale. They harpoon the thing, sticks in him. The whale freaks out, takes off like a rocket, and they're like holding on, like for life in these little rowboats. Sometimes the whale will go way down. They have to like let rope out, and like the rope starts smoking, and like chaos. Dudes are falling overboard. Meanwhile, the whale's like bleeding all profusely and stuff. Sharks are coming in everywhere. Like this literally happened. I watched a documentary. Like this inevitably would attract tons of sharks. So these guys fall off the boat. They get eaten. Like crazy stuff. They catch this whale. They basically like have to let him, pull him around till he runs out of steam, and then they like harpoon the heck out of him. And then they tow him back to the boat. They chain him to the side of the boat. Some dude stands on the thing, and they have to start sawing its head off,
Goodness gracious.
while they're on the side of the boat. So the whole boat is like covered in blood and guts. All of this just to get the oil in the whale's head to burn for candles. Like that was their heating. Like that was how they lit anything back in the day. Spermaceti oil. They would use the blubber too for other stuff and bones for like women's clothing and stuff. Who the hell figured out you could just like spear a whale? I mean, it's like, why would I make another? This is crazy. Like, people need to be talking about, I'm very anti-whaling, but that's pretty wild. That like, I never would have thought it was that insane, but it's like, I just can't imagine the first dude to actually do that.
No,
You know
that's
what I mean?
insane.
He's
That's
the very
insane.
first guy that's like, I'm gonna spear this thing.
You gotta have balls to do that, because like you said, the
Right.
blood is going to attract all the sharks, and now you're surrounded by
Exactly.
30 million sharks. You know?
Right. And then so they would like recruit these dudes from like Bali or wherever, the cannibals. It's just like this is a crazy lifestyle, man.
Well, you know what that makes me think about? I I was literally just thinking like I could have never been one of those guys on these boats, just freaking going like not these like these are not like ships, like these are just rinky dink boats. Do you know the story about Rockefeller? Like one of the Rockefellers who went to the he was like doing like I literally just studied this. What's when you study culture? What's that? That's the study of
Apology?
anthropology.
Yeah.
Do you know the story about the Rockefeller
No,
who's an
no, no.
anthropologist? So he was like one of the sons of like Dave Rockefeller, whoever, and he goes to study like one of those like freaking it'll come to my head, but one of like a small island of people
Right,
who
right.
don't see outsiders. So
Yes.
they see white people and be like, whoa, you know, like what's
Right,
going
right,
on.
right.
So over the years, they got a little bit more comfortable. And dude did his research there, left, came back, and when they came back, they were there with the people for a little bit, but they had to leave because it was like storming. So they left on the boat. Boat literally came apart. Dude said, "You know what? I'm gonna swim to shore." I think it's he swam like 12 miles. Crazy. Crazy story is dude got eaten by the people, cannibals.
Right,
So
right,
the Rockefeller they sent like a crazy like search for him. They cannot find him. They found out he got ate because like one of the natives was like, "Hey, here's a white man's skull," and it was his
right.
skull. And crazy stuff, crazy stuff,
I
crazy
know. I
stuff.
mean,
Papua
you
New
know,
Guinea.
also,
That's the island. Papua New Guinea. That's what I was thinking
oh,
about.
Papua New Guinea. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, famous cannibals.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating. I really cannibals are a great topic to talk about some other time, but I really got into that through exotica music, all the shrunken heads, and like man, this used to really go down, and you know, many people will say, I mean, I will, it's hard to say because it really life was spicier back then. You know what I'm saying? Like if you had the real risk of being eaten
Yeah.
on your vacation, that is that's a level we don't have to deal with in 2024. And this is partially probably why music sucks.
Also, funny enough, because funny,
Cool.
not funny story. The official report for the Rockefeller was that he like got eaten by sharks, but the Rockefellers
Right,
didn't believe that, so they sent
right.
their private investigator to the island to
And the
interview the
Pinkertons.
exactly. And
Yeah.
they sent the private investigator to the island to interview one of the peoples, and this guy had on glasses. Nobody had glasses on there. Like
Right.
glasses are not a thing on that island. So they're like, "Where do you get the glasses from?" And he was like, "I don't know." I was like, "You know where you get the glasses from?" He was like, "I just found them." And it was like, "Oh, this guy y'all ate. You took his glasses." So yeah, that's a crazy. And that wasn't that long ago. That was like the '60s. So crazy stuff, man. Crazy
Awesome.
stuff. And like you said, I love that your thing is why do people want an album from me? Why are people not learning about this stuff? Like, who cares about a Jay's Pants album?
Well, I mean, yeah, I would like to do something else, but
Please.
it'll it'll happen when it happens. I think the one thing I've learned with like creative endeavors or art or whatever is like the more you force it, the less it loses some substance every time. Every bit that you force like
Yeah,
takes away some life energy or something. So you just can't do it.
for sure. I want to say I have a few more things to ask, but I appreciate you for seeing your phone's about to die, and you're like,
Oh,
I'm gonna do the rest of the interview standing up. I appreciate that. I
no, that's good.
appreciate
I
that.
didn't. I sat enough today. So
I appreciate that. But one thing, fast forward to now, what you're doing, which I absolutely love, which I hinted at, was the radio station that you have
oh
going, the NTS radio station.
yeah.
My favorite song so far that I've discovered, let me get it right, it is Steve Elliott, Believe in Me.
Right. Oh,
Chef's
dude.
Kiss. That's great stuff right there, man.
Yeah. Steve Elliott is really special.
How'd you find that one?
That one I just have a reissue. I can't remember what label put that out. But that was like where did I hear that must have been Peanut Butter Wolf or something. It probably was. I don't remember. It was a long time ago, and I never had the vinyl until that reissue came out. But yeah, he's fantastic. He actually has. He goes by another name now, and he does kind of. He does like Christian R&B music now.
Really?
And he has this record on Spotify called. It's under the name I think Steve Sloan.
Mm.
You can buy the record. I bought it. You can like he'll send you a CD, and it's called Joseph, and it rules. It's really good. It's like it's a more digital, like the later Gary, like you mentioned the Gary Wilson Debbie Debbie, which is like late Gary Wilson when it's like electronic, and the Steve is Elliott's just like that. It's like a Steve Elliott, but like. With a '90s keyboard and drum machine, really good. It's really good. So I highly recommend that. But yeah, he's one of those. There's like a few R&B singers that I put in this category. I don't know what to call it really. I have them all grouped together in my collection, but I still don't know the name. But there's like a certain. It's almost like outsider R&B or something, where it's like these were mostly private press records. I think Steve Elliott's from Colorado, and just self-funded, put out these records, not on any label, just for his like buds, and stuff. And some of those, a lot of these outsider records are, let's be honest, not that great. They're just really rare, and so people pay stupid money for them. But that one is a really good one because he's got ultimate like feeling behind it.
Yeah.
Hard to fake that. Yeah.
I think that goes back to me saying why I like soul so much is it's the feeling. Like sometimes it's like I've heard like gospel records where somebody like voice might crack, but it's like, oh my gosh, like they're feeling this. You know what I'm saying? It's like I don't care if their voice is cracking.
Sometimes the best part when if something like if their voice breaks for a second, you're like, wow, that's like sometimes that hits me the hardest. Like that's the most beautiful part of the song.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's my only. Yeah, I'm glad you said that because that's a good observation. And I think for whatever reason, that's like my main. I'm not very talented in making music necessarily, but I can hear those parts in music that are like that, where it's like that's what makes the song. Like try to take that back. But yeah, like Timberland, for example, he would always have the crickets in the background of his songs, or like some.
He sampled a baby. I've never heard anybody do that.
Right.
It's crazy.
But like if you listen to like a lot of his songs, he'll have like this very faint backtrack of like a chirp or like an insect or something. And I completely stole that from him for almost every song I've ever had. Just because it's like having some bed of like reality in your song makes it so much richer than when people just do a purely sterile electronic thing. But anyways, yeah, Steve Elliott. I'm glad you mentioned it.
Shout out to Steve Elliott, and also quick time out. I mean, I have to ask you this, if you don't mind. I mean, I would love for you to just send me stuff, like just music that you find, because you have so much knowledge of music that it's amazing. And I'm not gonna let you say that you weren't talented enough or you weren't super talented at putting the music together. Yes, the heck you are. You're amazing at putting it together, man.
I appreciate it. I just, I'm not. I play the keyboard I play the drums okay, super chunky and rusty now. But I play the keyboard with my right hand, and so that's why I've always been like slightly an imposter. Because basically, I just use the magic of multi-track and like do everything with my right hand, and it's really shameful that I never learned with my left. It's a deep dark secret. But yeah, so I just that's why I'm not putting myself in that category as Steve Elliott. But I'm glad he likes Steve Elliott. Yeah, I can send you a list of some stuff like that.
No,
that's the stuff Tyler has always really liked too. Is like this level. So I mean, if you like Steve Elliott, the other big one on that vibe is that dude Doug Cream Blunt. If you've ever checked him out,
no.
He was a guy who wanted to record an album in Oakland, and he joined like an after school how to make a band class or something with like high school kids, and those kids became his band for this record, and so he just has this like slightly ill-rehearsed band playing, but he has this really wild. It's a much more elementary record than Steve Elliott, less musical, but like ultimate good energy, very very raw, very raw. And of course, Davis is like the Chocolate Star record was I got that in 2004 or 5, and that record messed me up from that point on. That to me, that was like that's my starting point for all this. It's the Gary Davis Chocolate Star record. That is one of the rawest things I've ever heard. Numero Group, currently they do reissues, and they put out some really excellent raw stuff. They do like primarily soul, doo-wop, and shoegaze records. So it's a good mix. But they're out of Chicago, and that's a great label to like find these really. When you talk about gospel too, they have a lot of gospel compilations. They have a few that are like drum only, like these like just drum set and people singing gospel. It's like nuts, It's like Jesus. I wish people made stuff of that intensity. It's like I like that. That's what we're severely lacking. Everybody's like real quiet and
yeah,
like everything is all personal, but it's like we need like some heavy energy right now.
for sure. And I want to give you two people before we get out of here that I think you should really check out. While we're speaking about gospel, I found this in the most random way. This is a girl I met a long time ago who is South Korean, lives in South Korea. How in the heck she found this record? I don't know. I don't. Why is this record in South Korea? I don't know. But it's like a Southern gospel record, and it's this album called "A Different Drummer" by Rahini Harris. It's the I don't know if you've ever seen this
I
before.
definitely don't know that. No.
No clue where this came from, but I listened to this, and if you listen to the song track number 2, "He's My Friend," imagine if Stevie Wonder made gospel. It is literally that, and it's crazy. It's like I don't know who this is. I don't know where this came from, but it is really amazing music. So I would definitely say Rahini Harris, "A Different Drummer." Great. I will. And my last one.
The other guy was Works. Last name Works.
I'll send it all to you. Bill Wirtz. I'll send it to you. But this one right here, this is a guy that I think is about to be a superstar. He just signed to XL Records, and dude named Nourished by Time. Familiar with him?
No.
Nourished by Time is making some of the craziest music. It's like electronic alternative. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's very progressive. It's very thought provoking music. He's singing. It's like he sounds like if all he's ever listened to was 90s R&B and Nirvana. If you put that together, it came out him. And it's such a crazy blend. It's such a crazy blend.
Huh. Nourished by Time.
Mm-hmm.
Too. So wait, are you? Yeah, I'll check those out, man, and I'll send you some stuff too in return. I love that.
So good. Were you about to ask something?
No, I was just like, so you're in school right now.
Just graduated. Just graduated August, but going back to graduate school
Nice.
in a few. So that's what I have going on.
That's exciting. You're studying sociology?
Psychology. So
Psychology.
I'm studying to be a clinical therapist. So
Oh, cool.
there you go with that.
Exciting.
There you go with that. Also, lastly, before we get out of here,
Yeah.
I don't even do these anymore. This is how old this is. But I had a fan question from this might be your biggest fan, Chloe Hot. Chloe Hot. She is like I searched your name on Twitter, and literally it's a bunch of Chloe Hotline stuff. Just like man, does James Pants make music anymore? Like Chloe Hotline's a huge fan, so I would be remiss if I did not ask her question. She said this is from 2020. She said, ask him about the 2 beat tapes he dropped and why they're not available anymore. It was James Pants Sorrows 1 and 2, with beats from 2001 to 2006, and 2 with beats from 2006 to 2010.
Yeah. I remember that.
So I guess she said, where are they? She can't find them anymore.
Yeah, they're gone in the digital ether. I guess that's the conundrum of our times. They were, I think they were originally Stone's Throw had them on their website, as downloads, and then they redid their website, and a lot of pages just disappeared. And I think that was one of them. I don't have them. I don't even
Oh,
have.
so they're
I,
gone.
I do have like I have a stack of hard drives that like have really esoteric cable connections that aren't common anymore, and they might be on one of those. But yeah, I don't have them. I am very not. I don't. I don't keep my old stuff that well.
Mm.
Like it's not. I feel like once I made it, it's like I'm done. And sometimes that's a good thing, and sometimes in cases like this, it just disappears. You're like, well, sorry, but I think it's okay. I'm sure it'll surface somewhere. I'm sure somebody has it.
For sure. And she also asked this, which I did not know. She said, "How did he find Denzel Curry?" That was Denzel Curry. That was Denzel Curry's first big cosign. I had no clue of that.
Wait. She's asking about what?
She said
Curry?
that you found Denzel Curry,
Oh, Denzel Curry.
and she said you were the first big person to co-sign him.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I remember. I don't remember where I heard his stuff. I heard it randomly. Maybe he sent it to me. God, I'm getting old and losing my memory. This was a long time ago, though. Yeah, I remember really, really enjoying Denzel Curry. I think he used to send me stuff. Like, I used to have. It's so weird, man. I have Twitter connections with a lot of these rappers.
I was say, did every rapper sing their music before they blow up? Like, what was going on back then?
Yeah, well, I think I think honestly, it was just a side effect of Tyler. I think that was all due to Tyler. Like Tyler shouted me out. A lot of people were like, "Wow, Tyler's doing some really crazy stuff." I had no clue, that it was. I had already I felt like I had already moved on, and suddenly all these rappers were just like into my stuff, which was awesome. It was really fun, and so yeah, I mean, Lil B has a bunch of my beats, like all kinds of crazy stuff. I don't know what's gonna happen. Like if nothing, maybe nothing. But it's just really interesting. It's one of those unexpected things that keeps life exciting. But yeah, Denzel Curry, major shout out. I've never met him in person. I've only talked to him. But yeah, he's got really good stuff. There was a really good Florida scene for a minute there. I remember really liking a lot of Space Ghost Perp had some really good beats back then.
Yeah. That's so crazy you say that because I never thought about that, but I could see somebody like Space Coast Perk being a fan of you just because I feel like some of the things you do are like kind of similar in my opinion.
Yeah. I think we connected on Twitter once or twice or something. Yeah, that Raider Clan stuff is really interesting. I didn't, I don't know anything about. I don't know what happened to him. I guess he's still around. And there was a couple other guys that were even. I really like this. I still like this guy, Lofty 305.
Yeah.
He's got some really good stuff. Florida just had like some really interesting stuff happening because they had this like really grimy Memphis sound, but also with the essentially like smooth 80s R&B loops, and it was just like it's like pure dopamine for me. It's like really grimy, but also just like basement vibes, but with like Sade on top. It's like, I've always been a sucker for that sound, so it still gets me every time.
Super funny. I will end it off with this. You crazy say Shoutout because I'm interviewing a Florida rapper from that time period tomorrow who literally sampled Sade twice on his album.
Oh,
Like
really?
it's a dude named Rob Banks. He's
Oh, I
actually
heard the name, Rob.
yeah. Do you know who his father is? Funny enough,
No,
Shaggy. The
really?
yeah
It wasn't me.
yeah it
Right?
wasn't me.
Yeah.
So yeah, Rob
Get out of
Banks.
town.
Yeah,
Wow, that's huge. Well,
crazy,
hey, what's up to Rob for me?
Will do.
For real. Yeah, there was also a good mixtape that E40's son Drew Beat did of only I think it's called Diamond Life or something, and it's an entire mixtape of Sade beats, and he has a couple really good ones on there. Shout out to Sade too.
Shout out to Sade. Love her.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to
And
the queen herself.
man, she
Um,
was such a babe too in 1985 or whatever.
I seen her recently. Looks exactly the same. She's like she's
She
aging
really
beautifully.
hasn't.
She looks like I looked at her. I was like, oh, this is like an old. She was like in a war show. I was like, oh, this is like an old video. I'm like, oh no, this is from like a couple days ago. I was like, that's insane. So, shout out to her. She's
Yeah,
great.
man,
Love her.
tough to know how to do it.
Yep, yep. But no, I want to say that I appreciate you for coming through.
Uh,
If you have any last words for the people watching, please let it be known, man.
yeah, I would just I think everybody should read more books, join their library, get a library card. Um, it's a great activity. I mean, everyone's so cooped up. Get off. We got to get off the screen for a little bit. You know, the Notes from the Underground. That's the hot tip. It's a good book.
And we're gonna end it on that. For everybody watching, I appreciate you guys. Until next time, I say what I mean what I say. Haters are gonna hate, and players are gonna play. And you guys, holler at your boy.